South Alabama holds off Southern Miss. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. And new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we had some Wednesday basketball action, and we'll look at Thursday's basketball action as well. We'll get to the South Alabama basketball game here in a minute. Texas State snaps Georgia State's winning streak, and ODU looking to win 4 straight for the first time in a couple of years. That's tonight's headliner. We'll get to that in the third segment. South Alabama hosting Southern Miss. South Alabama coming off the loss to Old Dominion. A little bit of a letdown ball game. Give it up to Old Dominion, playing a really, really good basketball game. South Alabama took control of this game. They beat Southern Miss 75-62, and I'm not sure how good South Alabama played in this one. I guess they were in control most of the second half. I would say that. They sort of got sloppy towards the end. Southern Miss couldn't ever make that final push. They took control of this ball game at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second. It was a 6-point game, 35-29. In fact, if you go back, it was a 5-point game, 33-28, with 4:45 to go. And then at halftime, it was a 9-point game, 42-33. And then South Alabama, I think, went on an 8-0 run. Is that right? 50-33, and that was all she wrote. Did they get it down to single digits again? I'm not sure if they did. Yeah. South Alabama basically controlled the second half. I thought Southern Miss actually played pretty good in the first half. They did a good job of breaking the pressure. But South Alabama I felt like South Alabama hit a bunch of threes. And again, South Alabama just scores the same 70 points. Like, they don't lose when they score 70. But they just don't score a lot of points. And they held Southern Miss to the 62 points that they give up. They give up 60 points a game, and Southern Miss scored 62. Let me see what the stats were here. South Alabama was 14 of 39, and they hit the free throws. They made 19 out of 21 free throws. Both teams shot a bunch of free throws. Southern Miss was 16 out of 22. They went to the free throw line a bunch. But Southern Miss was only 8 out of 34 from 3. They went cold for a little bit. In fact, both teams went cold. And actually, South Alabama sort of took control of the ball game when it was 10-9 Southern Miss. And both teams went cold about midway through the first half. And South Alabama hit a couple of threes and just methodically built a little bit of the lead. I mean, South Alabama only shot 37%. Southern Miss only shot 34% overall. And the big difference is that South Alabama hit 14 threes and Southern Miss hit 8 threes. And Southern Miss only hit, 11 two-pointers. So, again, that zone that South Alabama plays, usually when you get it in the middle of that 2-3 zone, you can turn, dish, shoot, drive, but it collapses. Like against Syracuse, you can make a couple of different decisions. If you take a dribble in the middle of that South Alabama zone, you're going to lose the basketball, right? You really have to turn and make a quick decision, and it is either to shoot or to dump it down low or to kick it to the corner or back out top. And you have to do it quickly. Let's see the turnovers. South Alabama had 10. They averaged just under 9, right, among the nation's leaders. And Southern Miss had 14 points off of turnovers, weren't that big a difference, 13-8. In fact, Southern Miss had more points over turnovers. Fast break points, not much. Southern Miss had 8 to South Alabama's 7. But, I mean, South Alabama had the lead 33 minutes, and Southern Miss led for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Again, basically when it was 10-9. So, I don't know. I just didn't feel like South Alabama was as crisp as we've seen them. Maybe the teams are figuring out the zone a little bit more. And at the same time, they just were never challenged. I don't know what I'm expecting anymore. They just were not challenged in the second half at all. Again, it was, a 5-point game with 4:45 to go in the first half. It got to a 9-point game at half, and it never got to single digits in the second half. So I wish I could be telling you I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I'm not even paying attention to what I'm saying because South Alabama was never challenged in the second half. They dominated, and this game was not nearly as close as that 13-point spread would tell you. I don't even know what the spread was because I didn't think it would be that much. Remember, college basketball doesn't give you the spreads, until really the day of. Let's see what the spread was. I'm not even sure. Oh, it was 12.5. Oh, they barely covered. It opened up at 11.5. It did get to 12.5. So they barely covered the 12.5. Whoa. Oh, man. And let's see if see what the over under was 139.5. They did not. They go the under. So that would be, with South Alabama, you do want to take the under because, again, they score the same 70 points every game, and they hold the other team to 60. So for the most part, right? I mean, again, outside of Mobile, even when they blew out James Madison, and I think I took the over in that ball game. No, I took the over in the Georgia Southern ball game. I took the over in that one. But James Madison, they beat 77-49. They beat Georgia State 77-51. They beat Georgia Southern 76-47. They beat Arkansas State 76-62. They did lose to Old Dominion 71-63, but the reason they didn't win that ball game is because they didn't score 70 in regulation. And they beat Southern Miss 75-62. So when they score 70 in regulation, they are undefeated this year, as it turns out. Well, actually, they lost to Central Michigan 74-70. That's the only loss that they have when they've scored 70 points in regulation. They didn't get to 70 points in overtime anyways against Old Dominion. So South Alabama does improve to 5-1. They take a half a game lead over Old Dominion. We'll get to that game in a little bit coming up tonight. They go to 13-5 overall. They are welcoming in Troy. We'll get to that ball game for tomorrow's episode. We'll preview that action following the Thursday night's ball game. And that's a big one. And so this could be, compared to the Old Dominion game, which would be the letdown game, the Southern Miss game could be the trap game, where you have the next game is the big one with the in-state rival, Troy, and it'll be another big ball game. Students are back. We heard them a little bit. We'll see. You got NFL playoffs. We'll see if it's a big crowd. It wasn't a huge crowd tonight. Football season is still in swing. I don't know how many games they got towards the end of the season, right? Because, they do have, they play Marshall and Texas State, and they finish up with the Cajuns at home. They really only have 3 ball games after football season is done. They got Monroe on January 30th. I don't know what day is that. What day is that? I was just even thinking of the Super Bowl. January 30th is a Thursday, so that doesn't have anything to do with the playoffs. In fact, that's Senior Bowl week. That's Senior Bowl week. So a lot of people will be in town, but they're there to cover the Senior Bowl. In fact, that may be their last day in town because the practices, that's the last day of practices is that Thursday. And so they really only have a few more home games. Troy's at home. Monroe's at home. That's 1, 2. They got Marshall and Texas State, 3, 4. They only got 5 more home games. No, they're having the best season under Richie Riley. All right, so we shall see. And let me see, out of those games, they're going to be favored in most of those basketball games, to be honest with you, right? Marshall, Texas State, yeah, they're going to be favored in all those games. All those games are very winnable ball games. The only game that is going to be tough at home is going to be that Troy game. So we shall see. All right, so South Alabama improves to 5-1. We'll see if ODU can keep up with them as they take on App State later on tonight. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back as Texas State cools off the hot Georgia State Panthers with a win in San Marcos. We will do that when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com, and make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sun Belt, your teams every day. We did have 2 other ball games in the Sun Belt. We'll get to Troy taking down ULM in Monroe. Monroe still does not have a win in the Sun Belt. But it was Georgia State coming in hot. I think I did take Georgia State to win this ball game, and they did not win this ball game. Texas State won this ball game 94 to 80. And the stats were all about Texas State. And it wasn't about Georgia State's defense that improved during this 3-game winning streak. It was their offense that improved as they scored a bunch of points, but they played no defense whatsoever in this one. Texas State shot 51% from the floor. They shot 50% from the 3-point line. They went 12 of 24 from 3. They out-rebounded. The Bobcats out-rebounded the Panthers 44-31. They got 17 offensive rebounds. They got 25 second-chance points. They got 30 bench points to 7. Texas State only had 2 guys come off the bench. I don't know if someone's banged up or not for Georgia State. And this game also not as close as the score would indicate at 94 to 80, as Georgia State ended the game on a 13 to 3 run. So over the last 2.5 minutes, so with 2:35 to go in the ball game, it was, we figure that out, 91 to 67. So that's how close it was. Not very close. So for Texas State, you did have, 5 guys, no surprise, 5 guys in double figures. Pope led the way with 20 on 9 of 13 shooting, of course, with 12 rebounds. You had Benson with 18 points, 6 of 14 shooting, 5 of 12 from 3. Green poured in 10 points. He had 12 rebounds. Morgan had 13 points. He had 6 rebounds. And Gums had 13 points, also dished 6 assists. Should also mention Green with his 10 points, 12 rebounds. He also had 5 assists. So a full offensive ball game for Texas State. And Georgia State just did not have the effort. Again, maybe a little shorthanded as they only played 7 players, and Ferguson only played 8 minutes. So they really only played 6 players, and their starters played most of the ball game. For the Panthers, let's see here. Tenari Lane had he was actually second on the team with 25 points. He was 9-19, 6-12 from 3. It's a pretty good game. Cesare Edwards had 27 points, 10-16 shooting, but that was basically it. Brown had 10 points as Georgia State was overmatched and apparently undermanned. So Georgia State, let's see, we get to the standings page. Georgia State falls to 3-3 and 7-11 overall. Texas State improves to 3-3 and 10-8 overall. Meanwhile, Troy, they had what we thought was going to be a relatively easy game with ULM, and they did, 77-58. Only a 5-point game at halftime, should mention. And then Troy overwhelms ULM in the second half, 42-28. Defense was really good for Troy, holding ULM to just 32% shooting. Troy shot almost 50%, 48 from the floor. They went 11 from 31 from 3. And it was just Troy's night. They played a bunch of players, a lot in the second half. In fact, Conaway was the only Troy player to have played more than 30 minutes. The other starters played a little bit over 25, but they were able to rest a lot of guys that they're coming all the way from Monroe, and they may actually go home to go back to Troy tonight, and then it's an extra day because they're playing in. It's not Tuesday. It's not Thursday to Saturday. It's Wednesday to Saturday. So they can go back to Troy tonight, get a night's rest if you want, and then they could head down to Mobile on Friday. All right. Let's see here. Conaway led the way. Actually, it was Campbell who led the way, along with Dowd, had 16 points. Conaway and Keel each had 10 points, but you did have, let's see here. Kyle had 27 minutes. Dowd had 23 minutes. Campbell had 25 minutes. Conaway had 32, but Fields had 16 minutes. Rigsby had 13 minutes. Bellamy had 12. Valdez had 19. Jones had 12, and Sang had 15. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I count that right? 8. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players for Troy that got double digits in minutes. Pretty good. Whereas for ULM, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that logged at least 30 minutes. That's tough. All right. Let's see what the bench scoring was here. Well, bench scoring was actually pretty even, 21-16 after all of that. All right. So Troy, checking out the standings. Troy improves to 4-2 overall. They're right behind South Alabama and Old Dominion, depending on what Old Dominion does. If they lose to App State, Old Dominion and Troy will be tied at 1 game behind South Alabama. Otherwise, Troy will be 1 game behind Old Dominion and South Alabama. And Troy is 11-6 overall. The point being, if Old Dominion loses to App State tonight, Troy can go in and become tied with South Alabama if they knock off the Jaguars. All right, let's see if we've done enough. We have. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll preview tonight's action. We still have 4 games left to go in the first part of the Sun Belt weekend. Again, I'm not sure what the whole 4 splitting up Wednesday and Thursday's ball game. That could be for officiating. Who knows? Doesn't matter. We got 4 games left to go on the Sun Belt schedule for tonight. So we will do that after I tell you about Prizepicks. This message is brought to you by Prizepicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prizepicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or regular season, Prizepicks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get in on all the action with Prizepicks. Here's how it works. You simply pick more or less on at least 2 players, and if your pick hits, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right, 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. For me, I'm all about the hot takes this season. This week on Prizepicks, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson for more than 250 passing yards and Travis Kelce for more than 70 receiving yards. It's fun to predict and easy to play. Plus, with Prizepicks Flex Play, you can still double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And with the app, you get your winnings fast, sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 for just playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prizepicks. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt. Your teams every day. South Alabama gets a win over Southern Miss. Troy beats ULM. And Texas State, I think Texas State has now all of a sudden won 2 in a row. That's what happened. Texas State beats Georgia State. They snapped the Panthers' 3-game winning streak. And all of a sudden, they'd beaten Troy but lost to Southern Miss. So they have won 2 out of 3 after losing 3 straight. All right. And now let's look at the action for tonight in the Sun Belt. And that is headlined by ODU. ODU coming off that huge win on the road to Old Dominion. And they're taking on a hot App State team. And let me see if I can find this. App State has won 3 in a row. They beat Texas State. They beat Coastal Carolina. And they beat James Madison. Let me see if I can find this piece of information. Someone slipped me this. App State put this out. So sometimes you can get these very specific statistics to fit the narrative. And App State did this. List of NCAA division players averaging 15 points, 4.5 rebounds a game, 5 assists per game, and 2.5 steals per game entering Wednesday. Miles Tate. That's the list. So, if you lower that by an assist or lower it by a half a steal, you may have some more players. But nonetheless, still very impressive, right? 15 points a game, 5 assists a game, 4 rebounds a game. So you're getting a guard that's getting 4.5 rebounds a game and 2.5 steals a game. So Miles Tate is having a fantastic season for App State. That is for sure. And obviously, he is getting some help with CJ Huntley as well, with his 15 points a game and 6 rebounds a game. It's going to be a heck of a ball game. And this is where we're going to see, here's the difference between being the hunter or the hunted. You all of a sudden beat South Alabama in Mobile. Now you are the hunted. And so, again, we probably don't have a line on this game, I'm guessing, although it is a little bit late on a Wednesday night. I'm guessing we don't. Let's see if it is out. Oh, we do. How about that? App State is actually favored. That's a little bit crazy. All right. All right. ODU is 8-9. All right. That's not a whole lot different than 9-7. But ODU is 8-9. They're 4-1 in conference play. They're at home. App State on the road. They're 9-7. Actually, let me rephrase that. App State opened up as a 2.5-point favorite. They're up to a 3.5-point favorite. That makes ODU a 3.5-point home underdog. My goodness. That's a little crazy. I'm going to take the home dog. All right. I'm going to take ODU. Let's see ODU step up. All right. But there is a difference between being the hunted versus the hunter. We shall see if ODU pats himself on the back a little bit too much, or if they can handle the dynamic duel of Miles Tate and CJ Huntley. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt later on tonight. First of all, that ball game, nothing on national TV. Everything is streamed on ESPN Plus. It is a 7 p.m. Eastern time ball game. 3 of the 4 ball games are Eastern time. The other big ball game is actually the one Central time, is Arkansas State taking on the Raging Cajuns. This would be normally a big ball game, but the Cajuns are not up to their standard, and yet they're 3-2. The 5-12 record doesn't mean a thing. They're 3-2 in the conference. They're taking on Arkansas State, who is also 3-2. They were heading towards a big-time losing streak, but they ended up going into Troy and taking down Troy, so they are 3-2. Kobe Julian came back off of the bench, helped them beat the Trojans, and I have a feeling this game could get ugly. First time that Kobe Julian will be facing his former team. Helped them win the Sun Belt Championship a couple years ago, was the player of the year in the conference last year, and will be facing his former team for the first time this season in Jonesboro later on tonight. Arkansas State, a big favorite, 16.5 points. All right. Meanwhile, 2 1-4 teams in the conference going at it. Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern. Again, I'm not really sure what's happened with Georgia Southern. Someone want to help me out in the comments. I don't know if someone has gotten hurt, but they have kind of they really haven't played well in a little bit. They had won 4 out of 5 to begin the season, and then it's kind of gone back and forth. I know, they had gone 0-12 last year, so even when they had lost a couple, I said they're doing much better than they had been. And if they're 8-9 overall, and they had, lost 3 in a row, so they were 8-6 before this recent 3-game losing streak. I'm not sure what's going wrong with Georgia Southern, but they have not looked really good. They played very well down the stretch to beat Monroe, or else they'd be looking at a 5-game losing streak right now. Coastal Carolina hasn't looked particularly good either as of late. They've lost. Let's see if they got a little bit of a streak. They've lost 2 in a row and 3 out of 4. And their offense, they lost 74-51 to App State, and they also lost to Georgia State. So we'll see what this is. I think Coastal is a slight favorite in this one. Coastal's favored at home, 2.5. This is one of those coin tosses I would stay away from. I got no idea who's going to win this one. And we got James Madison is favored at home by 5.5 over Marshall. Marshall is 3-2. James Madison, I think, plays much better at home than they do on the road. I'm going to cop out on this one. I'm going to take James Madison to win, but I think Marshall's going to cover, and would not be surprised if Marshall wins this basketball game. Winning is on the road is so hard. It's just hard. I think Marshall may actually win this game. We'll see. All right. I'm not sure what's happened to JMU since their big win over Arkansas State. They lost to Marshall by 2 at Marshall, so maybe they'll have a little revenge on their minds. And then they lost by 20 last time out to App State on the road. So maybe they've worked some things out. In fact, they're playing the same 2 teams again. They get Marshall and App State coming back home. So maybe they'll even things up. I don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised if Marshall gives them a little bit of a fit. All right. So to quickly recap, I'm taking ODU. I'm going to take Arkansas State, and would not be surprised if they covered 16.5 points. I just don't think the Cajuns are very good. Although Arkansas State has not played particularly well as of late, although they did beat Troy in Troy. I'll go with Coastal Carolina, although I wouldn't bet on that game at all. Again, I bet on the good teams to play good. I bet on the bad teams to play bad. In this case, it's 2 bad teams. And I'm going to take James Madison to win, but I think Marshall is going to cover the 5.5. All right. We will be back on Friday's episode to recap the Thursday games and look ahead to Saturday. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Keep those comments coming. Do appreciate the comments on, the quarterback situation in JMU, that Alonzo Barnett III really did a number to his knee, and that it's probably Matthew Saluka certainly heading into spring ball. We'll see when Alonzo Barnett III comes back. We do wish him all the best in his recovery. Once again, I am Dave Schultz, and I'm your host. We will see you again on Friday. Appreciate you watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day.